Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between, we are back for another week of The Strain. We're on episode 6 now. It is flying this season. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet for you, but I know whenever I say that, it ends up being like 7 to 10 minutes, but you get my point. So, in this episode of The Strain, another great episode. They kept it really flowing nicely with the pacing. They really kind of righted some wrongs, and everything just went great for me. So in this episode, one thing I gotta say, finally, they made Zach likable. So now Douche Muffin is no longer Douche Muffin. He was actually quite nice, because they start to make him act really douchey. They start to make him act really douchey when Mr. Fitzwilliam shows up in order to help with all of our buddies, and I was like, oh, here it goes again. And then Nora and him have this bonding moment when they're inside the house. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my god, thank you, Strain. You finally didn't make Zach a jerk for once. Because Zach has been a jerk since the beginning, let's be real, on this season. New Zach, no bueno. He just completely is obnoxious. So, that was all great. One thing I also loved was they tease more of Mr. Quinlan. And Quinlan just sort of jumps out of the back of a truck, and you get that shock moment because you see this Strigoi, and he's in the sunlight. Why is he in the sunlight? Well, you'll have to stick around to find out. Mr. Quinlan is awesome, and he goes to the Vampire Commission. He's like, hey, Master, I don't like him. You guys keep screwing up. I need a team of human hunters. Vaughn and the people I trained messed up, so I have a feeling they're not alive. And so, because Vaughn is a character created for the TV show, because in the books, it was only Quinlan, not Vaughn. So they don't technically have to keep him around, and that is something that I'm like, I don't think he's alive anymore. Quinlan, he's gonna more than make up for it, because Quinlan is beast. We're back to our party. Satrakian and them are studying for their plans to go against Eichhorst and all of that, and they're looking at Stoneheart Group's weaknesses. So they're plotting a major assault. And Nora, they went out to scavenge for supplies with Zach, and you see them bonding as though they're mother-daughter, which is nice. And F is out of New York entirely, doing his sort of bio investigation. He's trying to get people to invest and use it as a widespread disease, to like an anti-disease. So he's trying to kill everyone in the city who is a vampire, to eliminate it. He wants it, and he wants it now. But the problem is that he's having to disguise himself so people don't see him as F. And so he's going about being Jonathan Crowley, and he's like, we need to push this through right now. And what does he do? He has an affair with the woman who he's trying to pitch it to. Now, in all reality, if F is as awesome as F is in every aspect of his life, then maybe this could speed things up a bit. But F, he's with Nora, and I'm like, oh, that just did not help your character. But he is, as a TV character, cutting back on his drinking, which is a really nice and interesting thing to see, where he picks it up, and it was real subtle. He like picks up the glass thing, I always forget what it's called, and he picks it up, ottoman, I think, and he just like sets it down. And so I'm like, they're developing his character. But we also see Gus and Angel finally admits that he was the Silver Angel, and so they both walk the girl to do delivery, and they get attacked by Strigoi, and they're fighting them off together, and that's where you kind of see where they bond. So we're now seeing where all these characters converge, and that was really cool to see. Because these two characters hate each other, and then all of a sudden they're having to work together and save each other's lives. And, you know, that usually bonds people together, and that was fantastic. But I love this episode, guys. I'm saving the finale for last. But I love this episode. Because it's so well paced. You have a healthy amount of character development, and then you have a healthy amount of the action and terror. You just see all of these people are not in a happy place. Except for F. He's partying it up right now trying to sell his product until the hitman shows up and kills the blonde lady, and then kills his friend. And F gets shot in the arm, but he pulls the old feign the death trick where all of a sudden he lays down, and then he pulls out the gun and just bam, 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 and I was like, F, yeah, pulling some James Bond type moves there. But this leads us to our finale, which was so intense because you just see something hit the car and the cop gets out and you're like, never get out of the car. Oh my god, why are the IQs so low with everyone but our main heroes? They get out of the car and he's attacked. And you see it's the feelers, and then Zach kind of looks out into the distance and sees Kelly as a Strigoi, and you were just like, oh, it's going down. So all of a sudden, Nora's like, you're gonna run as fast as you can because these things are freaking velociraptors of vampires, okay? Bam! And then Zach starts running, and they run into the church, and Kelly is trying to break in on top of the feelers, and so the feelers are coming in. She sees a phone. She calls Satrakian. She's like, Satrakian, we need help. And all of a sudden, Satrakian, being all awesome, is like, get the weapons, we're on our way. And he just grabs his sword and they are ready to rock and roll. And so they go in there, and then you get this really nice tense horror segment where Kelly and the feelers are hunting for Zach and Nora, and they're like hiding and dipping away, and then Kelly's like breaking into rooms that they're supposed to be in, and it's so tense and you love it. And then all of a sudden they have nowhere else to go, so they're running, and then they hide in that little like altar thing, and they're hiding there, and the feelers are smelling, and Kelly's looking around, and then Fett, Mr. Fitzwilliam and Satrakian just bust down the door, and they're like, Nora! She's like, over here! And they just open up and all open fire and just boom, 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 boom. Feelers are getting shot, and then Kelly is sitting there and screeching out her lungs, and they're trying to fight him, and bam, 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 slice, and it's an awesome fight, and you're like, it's so tense, and Nora shoots a Strigoi in the face, and Zach's just kind of like, was that my mom? And Nora's like, I don't want to deal with this right now because we can't risk having douchebag Zach come back in the middle of a fight, so let's just get going. And Satrakian and them are fighting, but here's where I think they metaphorically wash from Firefly and Serenity, did like one of those Joss Whedon kind of lowball moves, or Agent Phil Coulsoned him up, where you see Mr. Fitzwilliam firing a shot and saves Nora. Nora turns around and is like, look out! You see the feeler drop down and then just hit him in the leg, and I was like, wow. So they just made his character seem so much more important, and then they just axed him off right there in one episode. It's like, oh, I'm gonna help you guys now. Ah, dead. And I was just like, oh, okay. Granted, not a terrible thing. He was never a big character in the books, but it was an interesting conclusion, because then you have him sitting there, he's like, I know what comes next. And Satrakian sitting there and just cuts his head off. So Mr. Fitzwilliam out of the picture now. All in all, guys, loved this episode. It had that blend where you got a lot of the important kind of character development. I love this episode of The Strain, guys. What about you guys? Are you going to be watching next week's episode? I hope you are, because I still am going to have this video for you then. Love you guys. See you next time.